What would you say the biggest misconception is that people would have around relaxers?
That they straighten hair.
Like me.
But I totally understand that. So when anyone ever says to me, you know, I wanted my hair straightened, I said, well, that's your first mistake, because they are making your hair more manageable and they're breaking down your curl.
Yeah.
But within that time frame, somebody would get straight hair.
Yes.
Because their curl breaks down very quickly.
Yeah.
Somebody who has a very tight curl, obviously it's going to relax that curl. So I'm a terminology buff. So if anyone says the wrong word,
Yeah.
no, forget that. It's a relaxer.
Yeah.
So the fact that most people that apply them are waiting for the hair to be straight.
That's the problem.
That's
and that's when we start ending with bloody scabs and
because
it's not supposed to be.
No, it's a corrosive. I think there's a sort of guideline that anything over 11 on the pH is classed as being corrosive. Which what's corrosion? Corrosion is eating away at something.
Oh, eating away, damn.
So
no, you're right.
And that's how I think of things. I think of them in the most simplest terms.
Yeah.
And when you start to have that understanding, you start to realise how dangerous these products are in the wrong hands.
I mean, I wasn't really considering getting relaxer anyway, but my stomach feels a kind of way from this conversation. So I think it's something that I'm glad we're discussing now, because I'm going to take my time and I will talk to my family members about this / send them a link to this podcast so that they have that awareness, because I didn't know any of these things. Keeping all of that into consideration when we're looking at how dangerous it is, my next question is a really serious one. There is a huge amount of misinformation going on out there in the world about what relaxers can and can't do to our bodies, right? And one of the most recent stories, I don't know if you've seen, but Revlon is being sued because the people that have used their hair relaxers are now saying they gave me cancer. This is so serious. And I'm thinking, I read the article, I had a look at the study they were making reference to, and the study in particular, it seemed like there was an element of mitigation where it sort of said there are certain ingredients that can lead to cancer. We haven't looked at the brand specifically in question. And I just think without real clarification as to whether or not you can solidly correlate cancer to a relaxer, it can cause a level of scaremongering, in my opinion. So from a professional, would you say that there is a way that you can confidently connect relaxer to any medical conditions such as cancer, either short-term or later on in life?
I mean, there must be a way in which you could test something, but I've sort of read a couple of these articles as well. And even the plaintiffs, their sort of scientific team have said, we cannot find the ingredient. But I think what has, and I've been thinking about this all week.
Yeah.
The difficulty is conditions. There's variables. So when a company makes a product, most things can do harm. Yeah. You know, and this is the truth. But when a company would be testing a product, they test it under certain conditions.
Okay.
So therefore, they're not going to test it on humans. I'm assuming they test on animals.
More than likely.
But the difficulty is that's not the same condition. So they're testing, obviously, to see if there's any sort of real sort of
serious like poisons or exactly,
completely eroding away. But what the problem with relaxers, and I've always found this, is firstly they should not be sold in shops because most people do not use them correctly. Yep. Even in, you know, some hairdressers, they're not used correctly. I was speaking to somebody yesterday and she said, you know, I was told I'd get my hair relaxed every 4 weeks. So therefore, the conditions of that use have already changed.
Yes, they have.
The simple fact is they're being left on for longer. So therefore, that's going to exhibit a completely different effect on that person
than what the manufacturer was planning. Right.
Because if you use it for X amount of time, which is the correct amount of time, it will not corrode through your skin. So therefore, if you use it incorrectly, getting wounds that are bleeding, they're getting to the live part of the skin. They're breaking away and they're corroding away that epidermis, which is the top layer of the skin, which is pretty much made up of dead skin cells, which help to protect us from pathogens and toxins from entering. You're then getting to the live part, which therefore is where you've got all the tissue fluid, the blood, everything that's entering into your skin. So therefore, the manufacturers, I mean, I'm not that kind of, you know, I'm not a scientist.
No, but you've hit me with some knowledge. Yeah, it makes sense.
Actually figure out, they have to do the testings under the conditions at which these are used.
Yeah.
These are not how they are indicating them to be used.
But let's be honest, they're how they're being used.
So therefore, if they're suggesting that you get them done every 12 weeks and people are getting them done every 4 weeks, They suggest you leave them on for no more than 18 minutes.
That's still wild to me.
People are leaving them on.
Oh, God, yes, for way longer than 18 minutes.
The variables are completely different. So it's a really difficult one, and it's one that it's been going around for many, many years, and there isn't a definitive answer.
Yeah.
But I would always say, do your due diligence.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to embark on something, make sure the person that is actually carrying out this relaxation knows what they're doing.
Ideally, that would be the first step.
Yeah. And it is difficult because, you know, the companies are coming back and saying, look, we're doing testing, which I'm sure they are.
Yeah, but you have to question, but under what environment?
Yes. And also you've got to look at genes. So there's people that are predisposed.
Yes.
I think you've got to look at phenotypes. So there's environmental factors that will change and cause mutations. We're discovering in trichology lots of different sort of hair loss conditions.
Okay.
Very prevalent in Black women, and it's a mutated gene. So who's to say that also, are these women suffering from that condition as well?
There's a lot to consider. Yeah. It's not as simple as I bought this from Revlon and now I have cancer.
Yeah. And it's something that really does have to be brought to the spotlight.
It does.
You need to be aware. The companies need to actually say, you cannot use this unless you have a license.
Yeah.
We are not going to sell this over the counter because nobody reads instructions.
No, I know.
You know,
they really don't.
And also we're a nation now where everything's really quick and we can't be bothered, so we scan things.
Listen, I do quick scans on everything. But I think what you've said is correct. So it may not be a case of saying, hey, you know, this might cause you cancer because you just don't know, but it may be a case of having more responsibility about who you give that relaxer to.
Yeah. You have to, because if you're giving something that, one, can corrode the skin and actually cause scarring and, you know, wounds that can become infected.
I had a bald patch for a really long time. Like the hair wouldn't grow back for, I would say, close to half a year.
Yeah. And if you cause a scar on an area, you're not going to grow hair. So
no,
even if that is the least that it does, that shouldn't be allowed.
Agreed. Okay. I find it fascinating because I always just hear it causes this cancer or uterine cancer and these different things. And it's not to say that I want to sort of disregard it completely, but we're told at this point that we shouldn't even be eating butter or white salt. So it's just an additional stress source that I just wanted to find out if there was any real way to check or confirm.
I think the thing is, there is a correlation.
Yeah.
And they have found a group of people that, you know, uterine cancer is very rare.
Yes.
So they need, you know, to me, it needs to be addressed.
Yes.
Because if there's any risk that something,
then we need to have that awareness.
And therefore, it needs to be adapted. We know smoking.
Yes, we're all aware.
So therefore, they have put the guidelines on there and they restrict how that product is sold.
Yes.
And that's the difference. That's where the companies need to step in now, because there's no point stepping in when it's discovered that
yes,
it does,
and everybody's got it.
Late.
Yes, I agree.
So, you know, this has been brought to our attention. We need to deal with it. We need to deal with how it's used.